Hey guys, I want to talk just a little bit about the anti-gun agenda, about some talking points I've been hearing a lot lately. I want to put some facts and statistics out there for you, a few numbers, so that if you find yourself, having a conversation with a family member or a friend or a coworker or somebody online, you have some information to kind of back yourself up with. And I also want to encourage you, if you find yourself in a situation like that, that you do have a conversation in a rational and civilized manner, because the worst thing you can do is have an ideological argument with somebody, because it goes nowhere. Now, the chances of us ever coming to a consensus in this country on guns is probably zero. But every day people go from being anti-gun to pro-gun. It happens all the time, all across this country. You don't know how many people I've met since I've been on YouTube that said they used to be anti-gun and now they're pro-gun. So it does happen, and usually it's going to happen because of a rational conversation that you have with somebody. And so that's what we want to stick to. So, first and foremost, first point I want to talk about is this idea that if you have a gun in your home, you're going to shoot yourself in the face with it. Or somebody, one of your family members is. You shouldn't have a gun in the home at all. If there's no gun in the home, you're not in any danger of being shot. This is the idea that's being pushed. This idea that you're probably never going to find yourself in a self-defense situation. You're more than likely going to get shot in the face by your gun. Now, there is a small little statistical fact buried deep within that argument that is slightly true, and I'll go over that here in just a second. But the vast majority of it is completely ridiculous and untrue, okay? First off, just because you don't have a gun in your home doesn't mean you're not going to get shot or be a victim of a crime. It's a ridiculous argument. People are victimized by criminals. People are shot every day in this country when they have no firearm on them or in their home. So statistically, that's completely untrue. It's completely ridiculous. This idea that you're going to have a gun in your home and it's going to shoot you in the face, ridiculous. There are tens of millions of gun owners in this country, hundreds of millions of guns, and these people manage to get through every year, okay, without shooting themselves in the face. So statistically and factually and in every way, that argument is completely untrue, false, and it's just pushing an agenda. It's implying something that isn't true. Now, that little statistical fact I was talking about is the fact that, yes, let's say my Glock 17, that particular gun has a higher likelihood of doing me or somebody in my family harm because it's here at my home than it would be if I hadn't purchased it in the first place, because it would still be sitting at the gun shop on a shelf. Statistically, that's true, okay? That gun, because it is nowhere near me, could not do me harm in the way that it possibly could, because it is here. It is in my vicinity. But that does not imply that it is more dangerous to have a gun in the home, just that if I am going to get shot, it may possibly be that gun along with any of the other guns that it could be that a criminal might use or somebody else might use against me, okay? I mean, let's be honest. Statistically, swimming pools, cars, alcohol, knives are all things that you're more likely to be harmed by that you have in your home than a gun. I mean, statistically speaking, it's just true. All right, you're more likely to be stabbed or drown or get, run over or hit by a drunk driver or whatever than you are get shot because you have a gun in your home. All right. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this idea that you're probably not going to find yourself in a defensive situation, and so you won't need a gun. Over 200,000 times a year, a person defends himself against a violent crime with a firearm. Violent crime. Okay? There's a distinct difference there between a crime and a violent crime. 200,000 times a year, a violent crime is stopped because a law-abiding citizen had a firearm. Violent crimes are things like savage beatings, rapes, and murders. Okay? So one thing that the anti-gun crowd likes to talk about a lot is, oh, well, there's all these accidental shootings. Okay? Well, let's think about this. Tens of millions of gun owners, hundreds of millions of guns. How many accidental shootings last year? A little over 500. Not very many compared to how many guns are out there, right? Then you compare that to the fact that there's over 200,000 times that somebody defended their lives against a violent crime with a gun. You can't compare a little over 500 to 200,000 plus. You can't. So let's bump it up a little bit. What about murders? Well, about 11,000 last year, give or take. Been slowly declining for the last 20 years or so. Used to be upwards of 22,000. Now it's down to half that. So those crimes are going down. Still, 11,000 people died by guns. Over 200,000 saved themselves from being raped or murdered because of a gun. You can't compare the two. You don't throw away those lives of those 200,000 people for those 11,000. The numbers don't mix, you don't do it. Same thing with accidental shootings. You don't get rid of guns to defend the smaller of the two groups. You simply don't do it. Now, a lot of things that the anti-gun crowd likes to talk about is they throw suicide in the mix. Well, hate to tell you this, but people who are going to commit suicide, okay, as somebody who has had somebody in my family do that, okay, it's going to happen anyway, whether they have access to a gun or not. Now, some of them may be prevented if there was not a gun easily accessible to them. The vast majority would still find a way to kill themselves. Suicide's been around a lot longer than guns has. It's just a fact. So, there you go. Just wanted to throw those few points out there, give you guys some information. If you're anti-gun and you're watching this, hey, tell me what you think. You probably think I'm wrong, that's fine, but let's have a rational discussion about it anyway. So, there you go. Again, appreciate you guys watching. Questions, comments, leave them down below, and we will talk to you later. Thanks.